Voices that farmers trust most.
Wellness starts with prevention. Book your annual appointment online today with SIU Center for Family Medicine in Lincoln by clicking their icon on DeWittDailyNews.com.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police splatter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
From the Hart Media Group newsroom and DeWittDailyNews.com, I'm Ben Hubbard with this expanded morning newscast. Good morning and thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Ben Hubbard. The news is brought to you by Connexus, offering fiber internet in Clinton. Click their icon on DeWittDailyNews.com to find out more, as well as Baum Chevy Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters. While many may associate emergency management with emergency response, in reality, much of the focus is on prevention. At Tuesday night's DeWitt County Public Safety Committee meeting, Emergency Management Agency Coordinator Will Pavlik brought extra funds to the committee's attention, which he would like to use to provide spill kits to fire departments across the county. He says the leftover funds are from a grant provided by Enel Clean Energy.
Okay, so this is an attempt to see if we can help our county fire departments out. We were made aware at our last ESG meeting, our emergency services group meeting back at the end of January, that a lot of the departments were low or had none of any oil absorbent materials for minor hazmat cleanup, spills, fuel, stuff like that. And so our office wanted to try and take the initiative to try and help them out by kind of doing a mass order of a variety of different cleanup tools, like pigs, just some oil dry spread. And so we were kind of doing some research on different options. And so in the packets there, we had a variety of things. The top part is the oil, like kitty litter type stuff. And we had found a little bit from Menards that was running at $8.29 per bag. And we were looking to get approximately 7 or 8 bags per department. And so that total for the 6 departments, and if we got 8 bags each, we were looking at just under $400, $397.92. So that was kind of part one of the cleanup kit we would be getting for them. And then the second portion, we were kind of going back and forth between a 20-gallon drum universal spill kit and a 30-gallon drum universal spill kit. The 20-gallon drums got the 20-gallon drum, 40 absorbent pads, 3 absorbent socks, 2 absorbent pillows, 5 hazmat bags, 5 zip ties, a pair of gloves, a pair of goggles, and 1 spill kit sign. And so we had the one for the quote for the $20. The one was $197.79 per kit. Obviously, we would get one for each department. And so that total came out to be $1,186.74. The 30-gallon drum was the same materials. There were 10 more absorbent pads from 40 to 50, 5 more absorbent socks from 3 to 8, 3 more absorbent pillows from 2 to 5, 2 more hazmat bags, 2 more zip ties, and then obviously the 10-gallon drum differential. That total for one kit was $294.49, and the grand total with the 6 departments would be $1,766.94.
While this is not necessarily an essential need for departments, Pavlik believes this would be a good use of the excess funds. He emphasizes that they would not restock these supplies in the future and that they only plan to make this purchase once.
Obviously, we don't have to go this route either way. This is just funds that were available to us per Enel. We'd gotten a grant from them last year, just asking them for some assistance when we had gotten the lights for the Malibu. And so this would be coming from that fund in our grant monies account that the treasurer's office has some oversight over. And so we were looking to see either one of those options, or, just the 20-gallon universal, just the 30-gallon drum universal, but that's kind of the situation. But we wanted to do this in an effort to try and mitigate some of the issues that our fire departments were having.
That's going to be my question. As they use these, are we going to replace them?
We will not be in charge. I like I said, this will be a one-time thing. If they run out of this stuff, I think it'll be up to them. I want to do this as a courtesy, but I'm not going to be in charge of replacing all their stuff.
Pavlik told the Hart Media Group following the meeting that these spill kits are only intended for smaller spills, such as a fuel spill at a gas station or from a vehicle. He notes that it is a good tool in mutual aid between county fire departments as well as outside of the county.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like I had mentioned earlier, these are primarily for smaller spills.
Sure.
In a larger scale incident, outside resources and bigger resources, more equipment, more manpower would be needed. But for smaller spills, it would just be a matter of, giving a call to another neighboring fire department and say, hey, do you need any oil dry material? Do you need any kitty litter? Do you need any pigs, any socks, anything to help absorb what's, been spilled? And, that's something that we can discuss, at a later time with the other fire departments to see how we want that to be set up. But essentially, we're trying to get everybody kind of at a fresh start to be able to have a good stockpile of resources for a variety of incidents. And, we think this could help in multiple ways. It can help with preventing some of the fire departments from having to seek outside help for resources if there's a spill in their jurisdiction. It can help with, addressing multiple needs, like I said earlier, with different spills sometimes occurring in water. That's treated differently, obviously, than if it were to be a spill on the road. And so we think this is, again, something that will benefit everybody from a fire department perspective and give them some, quick resources that can be deployed pretty easily for the most part. That's kind of why we had started this, kind of initiative for all of them.
Pavlik feels that the crux of emergency management is preparedness and being ready for situations from small spills to larger scale natural disasters. He says that it's about utilizing the blue sky days to stop emergencies before they happen or before they get out of control.
That's what emergency management is all about. It's about staying prepared. It's about trying to address an incident before it happens, right? We all hear the saying to, go in and trying to get stuff done on those blue sky days when there's no incidents happening. That's when the preparedness happens. That's when we take preventative measures, mitigation strategies are discussed. We try and do our best to, look at these things on days where we're not having to address an incident. And like to your point, Ben, if there was an incident that happened in real time, and you don't know where the equipment is, you don't know who's going to be able to respond, that incident can escalate extremely quick, become a much more complex incident, and we've got a much worse day than what we started. So trying to do these things, beforehand and making sure that, the equipment, the training, the exercising, if there were a situation where it would need to be exercised, that stuff happens, before an incident happens. And that's really what emergency management, like I said, is all about. It's about preparedness. It's about doing everything before an incident were to happen and really looking at stuff from, I hate to say it, but looking at it from a negative perspective and, just trying to see what can go wrong and how do we mitigate that.
The committee ultimately decided to approve the purchase, which still leaves roughly $5,000 for future use from the NL grant. Also, at the Tuesday night meeting, at the request of Pavlik, the committee moved to recommend the purchase of a new EMA vehicle to the full board. We'll have more on that in the days ahead from the Hart Media Group. Coming up shortly on this expanded newscast, Nutrition Educator recommends eating Valentine's treats in moderation. The introduction of Tap to Pay allows people all over the world to utilize a new convenient form of payment, but it may not be as secure as you might think. Connie Miller with the DeWitt Savings Bank has been researching Tap to Pay and explains that it is often advertised as a secure form of payment, superior to the risks of inserting a debit or credit card into the reader. She says that while it is better, they are not scam-proof.
I was doing a little research on Tap to Pay debit cards because we were learning, these are safer. You should use these versus inserting them in the machine. Well, they're good, but they're not scam proof.
Okay.
So I did a little bit of research on them and I learned of some really disturbing scams. So I wanted to just make people aware of them because they might not be. So Tap to Pay is really nice because you just put your card on there and you're out the door, right? And you might not necessarily see what amount you're paying either when you tap to pay and walk out the door. Well, so there's been increasing fraud with that where they say you're paying a certain amount, like they'll tell you $4.10, but they really put $14.10 on your card. But there was a report, an expose I saw on TV, and a gal was charged $48,000 on her credit card. Yeah, or it was $40,000 on her debit card.
For one unfortunate victim, what was thought to be a small charitable donation turned into theft of tens of thousands of dollars. Miller says even if there is a screen that says the amount you're paying, it could be a lie.
Everything that could possibly happen happened to her. So she worked in the city and someone was on the side of the street asking for money for some charity. And so he's like, it said something about $10 to charity. And she's like, sure. So they had a machine to tap to pay. And she went to tap to pay. And the guy said, oh, it didn't go through. So she did it again and again and again till it worked. Well, she thought she was giving them $10. And in fact, you can see on the screen, it could say $10, but they're really charging you more. So she was charged for each of those transactions 8 times $5,000. And she didn't know that. She thought she was giving a one-time $10 donation. So she had no alerts on her phone that, that this went through. Secondly, she had overdraft protection. So you would think, oh, I don't have that much money in my account, it will decline. She had her savings account connected to her checking account, and she was saving for a down payment on a house. So she had the money. And so the money went from her savings account to her checking account to cover those.
When it comes to preventing tap-to-pay scams, Miller says to avoid overdraft protection. While it may seem counterintuitive, she says it is worth preventing scammers from taking money out of your checking and savings accounts.
I bring that today as like hey, look at this. This can happen, and it can be a perfect storm. Ways to prevent things like this. Well, first of all, if you are planning on giving money to charity, make sure it's a reputable charity. They're going to tug at your heartstrings, of course, like that. But also, don't have the overdraft protection. That's a huge, huge issue that I see with a lot of people. They think, well, if I don't want to have to pay $29 if I have an overdraft fee, I'd rather have the money just come out of my savings account. But that means they have a scammer has access to whatever's in your savings account along with your checking account.
Wow.
So if you can keep your checking account balance low, move money in as you need it and not have overdraft protection, that's going to help you too. Because if you have, let's say you're saving for a house and you don't have a savings account, you're like, we'll just keep saving it in our checking account. Not a big deal. You have 50 grand in there. That's 50 grand that a scammer could get.
Miller reminds that keeping a close eye on your transactions anytime you make a purchase is the best way to prevent scams. She adds to never make purchases from untrusted sources, whether online or in person. You're listening to the WHOW Morning Show. Let's take a quick break with a word from our sponsors.
Experience the power of better connection with Connexus Fiber Internet. Connexus delivers ultra-fast, reliable speeds to keep you connected at the speed of life. Whether you're working from home, streaming your favorite shows, or gaming with your friends, Connexus has you covered. Say goodbye to buffering and dropped calls and say hello to fiber fast internet. Ready to upgrade your connection? Sign up today by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Nothing connects us like Connexus.
It's time to celebrate winter. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City. Yes, we have extra savings on all new Chevrolets this month to celebrate the winter season. See our inventory of Chevrolet Trailblazers, Blazers, and the Efficient Trax. We also have a good selection of our 7-passenger Chevrolet Traverse and Tahoes. Chevrolet, together, let's drive. See our winter celebration savings at BaumChevyBuick.com right from the start.
News time is 23 minutes after the top of the hour. You're listening to the WHOW Morning Show. As is often the case during any holiday stretch, unhealthy foods are all around us. Caitlin Mellendorf is a nutrition educator with the University of Illinois Extension for DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. She explains that whether you are celebrating a relationship, friendship, or self-love, moderation is key for those Valentine's Day treats. She says to let yourself enjoy the time of year.
So for Valentine's Day, as you said, we're celebrating love and friendship and maybe self-love, and that can involve some chocolates and some sweets. And what I invite people to think about is this is one day out of your entire week, your entire month, your entire year, your entire life. So having a little bit of extra candy on that day, and then maybe you have some extras left over, right? So you had cookies from the kids' event at school, and you have chocolates from, a loved one. And so that may stretch out for a couple weeks. What I invite people to think about is choose the ones that actually taste good to you. So if you think about like the box of chocolates, it's a mix. There's some coconut in there. There's some like fruit jam stuff, and then there's some mint things. If you don't like a certain flavor, you certainly don't have to eat it. It can go in the trash. You can share it with someone in your house that does like that. So I invite people to really focus on the things that they really enjoy out of these sweet treats.
Many will choose to completely abstain from sweets, which can lead to some bad feelings or even binge eating should you cave into the sugar. Mellendorf says it's important to permit yourself to indulge on occasion.
What we know is that people who tend to say, well, I'm not going to have that sweet treat, and they kind of push off, but they really do want it. I want to give people permission to say, go ahead and have that, because what you're more likely to do later is try to eat something that's, you're like, I'm going to have some carrots, and then I'm going to have some water, and you're trying to push away the hunger of like, I want this chocolate. And then you might end up just going, well, screw that. And you're going to eat like the entire box maybe. So what I invite people is, give yourself some permission to enjoy those. You can practice mindful eating, which is being very aware of the different senses as you're eating. So if it's a heart-shaped, sugar cookie with icing, you can spend some time like looking at it. You can spend some time smelling it before you take a bite. When you do take that bite, you can let that sit in your mouth and notice like, okay, what's sweet? Is there maybe like a flavoring? Is there like vanilla, or are you noticing like peppermint, or is there something in that? And kind of slowing down with that dessert. And so really just having time to go, I am enjoying this, and it's okay for me to enjoy that. So we're trying to take away some of the fear around sweets. Like as we talked about with American Heart Month, it is important overall through, your life to reduce that added sugar. But a couple days throughout the Valentine's season is not going to make or break your heart health.
Rather than withholding sweets from yourself or children, Mellendorf recommends pairing them with healthier foods, which can encourage healthier and more well-rounded eating habits.
And we talk to this a little bit with parents who have kids that are maybe a little more picky, is if the kids like the sweets, we include the sweets right away. I mean, it's not an after dinner treat. It's we're going to put this scoop of ice cream with dinner, and we're going to give the opportunity for that picky kid to probably, yes, eat all the ice cream, but you're also serving it with maybe some chicken and some pasta and some veggies. And so then hopefully that kid is getting this understanding of, yeah, the sweet treat is there, but also maybe there's some other things. So as adults, we can still do this too. So if you've got those sweet treats at your desk, you can also maybe pair those with something that has a little bit more nutrition in it. So maybe some pretzels or some nuts or something to have that sweetness that you're really enjoying, but also adding in some extra nutrition too. Just give yourself permission to enjoy the sweets, because that's something that makes life fun. Is having these little sweet treats.
While healthy eating is a game of knowledge and good habits, Mellendorf emphasizes that eating should not be a chore. Learn more about healthy eating habits by finding extension.illinois.edu/food. Tax season is here, and the Better Business Bureau wants to ensure Americans have the tools they need to avoid tax scams and identity theft. From phishing to phone calls, the BBB reports that scammers are getting more sophisticated each year, and this year is no exception. Don O'Brien is a scam investigator with the BBB.
There's two things of how these scammers might operate this year, and how they might operate in the tax season would be by phone. They're going to pretend to be with the IRS. They're going to call you out of the blue and request personal information or some type of payment, claiming that you owe back taxes or that they're working on your refund. Now, they may pressure someone to act immediately and go to great lengths to appear real. They may say, I'm agent number, blah, blah, blah. My name is so-and-so. And they may have a good robocall message. They may even seem like they're calling from the IRS with the technology they have at their fingertips. They're going to do that by phone, and then they're also going to try to phish. They're also going to send you messages, possibly by email, text, or social media. They're going to claim that they're IRS, and the messages may include some type of link to a fake IRS website that says you need to update your IRS e-file immediately. And again, that's another ploy to get personal information.
This comes on the heels of the Internal Revenue Service reporting that Americans lost over $4 billion to tax scams in 2025. The BBB encourages those who encounter a scam to report it on bbb.org. Get news anytime from your computer or from your mobile device. Best of all, it's all free all the time at DeWittDailyNews.com.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. He was detained, questioned, and then released. Investigators working the Nancy Guthrie disappearance detained the individual in a late-night traffic stop. They later searched a home in Rio Rico, Arizona, about an hour's drive south of Tucson, near the border with Mexico. The man questioned denies any knowledge of the Guthrie case. This followed the FBI's release of surveillance images from Nancy Guthrie's front porch on the night that she was abducted. 8 people, including the gunman, are dead. The shooting at a small school in British Columbia. It happened in a town more than 600 miles north of Vancouver. 25 people were injured in the attack. The suspect identified only as a female. And the FAA is citing unspecified security reasons for a 10-day closure of the El Paso International Airport in Texas. This is SRN News.
Here's some great news. If you missed the deadline to sign up for health insurance, or more importantly, if you're just not happy with what you've got, you still have a choice. It's called MediShare, and it's proven for more than 30 years. It is proven. And we know this from member surveys. People love it, which is why it's grown to hundreds of thousands of members across the country. One big factor, besides the peace of mind that comes from being a MediShare member, the savings is tremendous. It is not atypical for a family of 4 switching to MediShare to save more than $8,000 a year. It is a difference maker. And you can get 24/7 telehealth. You get access to more than 1 million providers and hospitals. There are flexible options, too, for your budget. So if you think you're stuck with a high-cost plan that doesn't have much to offer, think again. You can join MediShare anytime. So call them today and check it out. There's no pressure. They're super easy to talk to. Here's the number. 844-45-BIBLE. That's 844-45-BIBLE. 844-45-BIBLE.
This is staff meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki with your regional radio forecast. Ample sunshine expected today with daytime highs approaching 46. Northwesterly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows level off around 28. Tonight, mainly clear skies. Cloudy skies expected tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 47. Hear weather twice an hour or online anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com. Right now, it's 26 degrees.
From the Hart Media Group Sports Desk, ILSportsWire, and DeWittDailyNews.com, I'm Ben Hubbard with this local sports report. In a game heard on WEZC and online at DeWittDailyNews.com, Monticello was without 3 starters Tuesday night and fell to 63-48 to Prairie Central in Illini Prairie Conference high school boys basketball action in Fairbury. Prairie Central scored 9 unanswered points to go up 9-2 in the first quarter, and Monticello could not recover. The Sages' leading scorer, Matthias Rudolph, did not start and tried to play through flu symptoms but ended up scoreless in limited first-half minutes. The Sages were without juniors Jake Motzgood with a concussion and Gus Reppert with illness on Tuesday. Dawson Gatros took one of the open spots in the starting lineup and scored all 12 first-half points for Monticello. He was the State Bank of Bement player of the game. The The Sages fall to 13-10 overall and 2-6 in the Illini Prairie Conference. They will host Champaign St. Thomas More on Friday to wrap up the Illini Prairie Conference slate. The Maroa-Forsyth Trojans came up short as they fell to the Williamsville Bullets by a final score of 51-44 in Sangamo Conference High School boys basketball action on Tuesday night in Williamsville. The game started slowly with the Bullets leading 11-5 after the first quarter. By halftime, they led 25-21. The Trojans held pace through the third quarter, trailing 34-29 after the third, but couldn't get the job done in the fourth. Cabron Lee led all scorers with 20 points for Maroa-Forsyth. Kobe Lane added 8 points, while Luke Smith and Cannon Grubbs each had 5. Williamsville had a more balanced offense. They were led by Caden Entwistle, who scored 15 points. Garrett Tim had 13 points, and Dalton Root scored 11. With the loss, Maroa-Forsyth falls to 15-8 and 4-2 in the Sangamo Conference. Williamsville improves to 20-5 and a perfect 5-0 in conference play. The Maroa-Forsyth Trojans have the Auburn Trojans up next. Tip-off is 7 p.m. on Friday in Maroa. The Argenta-Oreana Bombers beat the Villa Grove Blue Devils by a final score of 79-68 on Tuesday night in a high school boys basketball Lincoln Prairie Conference tilt in Argenta. The Bombers took the 18-16 lead after the first and grew their lead to 37-29 at the half. While the Blue Devils kept up in scoring, they were unable to overcome the final 11-point deficit. Isaiah Parks led all scorers with 32 points for Argenta-Oreana. Carter Logue added 19 points, while Cameron Strokes had 11. Gavin Taylor led the way for Villa Grove with 19 points. Thomas Vanderventer had 14 points, and Jackson Giles had 13. With the win, the Bombers improved to 9-17 and 4-4 in the Lincoln Prairie Conference. Villa Grove falls to 7-16 and 2-5 in the LPC. Argenta-Oreana will travel to Oka Valley as both teams try to get above 500 in conference play on Friday at 7 p.m. Regionals are right around the corner, and basketball programs around the state are ramping up for some of the toughest games they'll play all year. Jack Hart, founder of ILSportsWire, told the Hart Media Group on the WHOW Morning Show Tuesday that he hopes to have ILSportsWire personnel at as many postseason basketball games as possible. While it may take some work, he says the coverage of local teams and athletes is worth it.
Yeah, I've been going through the girls' schedule. It came out last Friday. One of the most exciting teams in the area right now is Clinton Maroons girls basketball. They have a regional coming up. They'll play either Sangamon Valley or Maroa-Forsyth at El Paso Gridley next week. So watch out for your Maroons. The boys will be having their regionals released on Thursday at 4 o'clock. We are going to be there at every regional game possible. There's a lot of moving pieces to it. We're going to be there covering every game. And we're hopefully going to be covering state for both girls and boys basketball. Even if your team or our team are not playing there, we're hoping to be at state to bring that coverage to you all. So keep watching out. We got an exciting couple weeks coming up here. I'm excited for it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of work, but we're excited. My team's excited, and we're excited for some wonderful postseason basketball that we're going to be covering.
The highlights won't stop there as Hart and his team prepare for the spring sports season. Hart founded ILSportsWire in August of 2025 and hopes to expand to even more teams in the future. Nick Boyd scored 25 points and John Blackwell had 24 to lead the Wisconsin Badgers to a 92-90 overtime victory over the number 8 Illinois Fighting Illini on Tuesday night. The pair combined for 9 of the Badgers' 11 points in overtime, handing the Illini their second straight overtime loss. Illinois lost on Saturday at number 10 Michigan State. Wisconsin improves to 17-7 and 9-4 in the Big Ten. They trailed by 12 points with 8 minutes and 10 seconds to go in regulation, but sent the game to overtime at 81-all thanks to 2 3-pointers by Austin Rapp in the final 2 minutes. Rapp finished with 18 points. The Badgers' Nolan Winter scored 4 points after a career-high 26 in an overtime loss Saturday at Indiana, but he had 11 rebounds. Keaton Wagler scored 34 points for Illinois, which played without starters Kylan Boswell and Andrei Stojakovic. Illinois falls to 20-5 and 11-3 in the Big Ten. Tomislav Ivicic had 19 points and 11 rebounds. David Mirkovic had 12 points, and Jake Davis had 11, and Ben Hummerkaus had 10 for the Illini. Ivicic scored 17 points in the first half. He played nearly the entire game wearing a number 52 jersey after his number 13 jersey was ripped in the opening minutes of the contest. The Illini came into the game as the number 5 free throw shooting team in the nation, but were 11 of 19 at the line. Their 8 offensive rebounds were a season low, and their 13 turnovers were the most in a Big Ten game. The teams combined for 69 three-point attempts, with Wisconsin shooting 16 of 36 and Illinois going 15 of 33. Illinois led 44-38 at halftime, rallying from an early 8-point deficit. Wisconsin is at home on Friday night versus Michigan State, while Illinois plays host to Indiana on Sunday. The Chicago White Sox agreed to a 1-year, $1.5 million deal with pitcher Erick Fedde on Tuesday. The 6'4" right-hander went a combined 4-13 with a 5.49 ERA in 32 appearances with St. Louis, Atlanta, and Milwaukee last season. He made 21 starts for the White Sox in 2024 and went 7-4 with a 3.11 ERA. He will wear number 47 during his second stint with the team. The 32-year-old Fedde has a 34-55 career record with a 4.94 ERA in 8 major league seasons, mostly with Washington. He was named Most Valuable Player of the Korean Baseball Organization in 2023 after going 20-6 with a 2.0 ERA. Fedde will fill left-hander Kai Bush's spots on the 40-man roster. The White Sox placed the 26-year-old Bush on the 60-day injured list so he can continue recovering from Tommy John surgery. Bush missed the entire 2025 season. In scores from around the NBA last night, the Indiana Pacers took down the New York Knicks 137-134 in overtime. The Houston Rockets beat the LA Clippers 102-95, while the Dallas Mavericks fell to the Phoenix Suns 120-111, and the San Antonio Spurs beat the LA Lakers 136-108. In NCAA men's basketball action from last night, number 22 BYU beat Baylor 99-94. Number 13 Purdue upset number 7 Nebraska 80-77 in overtime. Miami upset number 11 UNC 75-66, while number 15 Virginia beat FSU 61-58. Number 19 Vanderbilt took down Auburn 84-76, while 21st ranked Arkansas beat LSU 91-62. Duke, who's ranked 4th in the nation, beat Pitt 70-54, and number 3 Houston beat Utah 66-52. Texas Christian University upset number 5 Iowa State 62-55. Number 12 Gonzaga beat Washington State 83-53. Get highlights of your local high school program by finding ILSportsWire on your preferred social media platforms, and get local sports anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com.